Welcome all to another episode of Tech Leaders Unplugged. I'm your host, Wade Erickson, and today I have Kevin Fray, the field CTO of Mark43, and we're going to talk a little bit about technology tools for for public safety. This is an area of interest that I have. I worked with a product that was a dispatch tow system. Was talking with Kevin around that experience, and been in this area and really a hot area, especially with the busy life that dispatchers and people in public safety and that have technology is always a welcomed addition to their to make their job a little easier. So, Kevin, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about Mark43, what kind of products and services you guys do, and then we can jump into the subject.
Yeah, Wade, thanks for having me on. Thanks for your time. As you've already said, I'm Kevin Fray. I go by Fray at Mark43, field CTO, and a little bit about Mark43. So, you already talked about technology tools for public safety, but we're the first cloud native public safety platform, and what that touches is computer aided dispatch, records management, and a little bit of the associated models of records management, case management, physical property evidence, analytics. But my 30-second elevator pitch, for folks that aren't fully familiar with public safety, right? You pick up your cell phone, you have an emergency, you dial 911, right? It hits a cell phone tower, right? It's gonna, identify it in terms of the switch that's going to an emergency, area. Depending on your location, it's going to drop off to a public safety access point. Now there can be, trees to the public safety access point, but ultimately, the call is going to get to a call taker. And for the smaller, call centers, it will be a telecommunicator or call taker and dispatcher. It all depends on kind of the size and what the challenge is of their population. So anyway, the software that they see when the call comes in, like directly on their screen, information on the call, information on your location, maybe some advanced information, dependent on some of the partners that we work with, like Rapid SOS, or like, tying into like your Uber emergency app or something like that. So they'll see that information, where you come from. They'll see a lot of advanced information in terms of like location data, location cautions. They'll have a map too as well, so they can see on the map where it's coming from. They can see their units on the map, right? Transition to a dispatcher, unless it's the same seat. Dispatcher can, dispatch a unit there in terms of a police unit. If it's a fire event, maybe there's some automated information or automated stations or vehicles or apparatus that need to go there. So boom, get the units on scene, get them en route, right? Transition over, take the call center hat off, but the field hat on, right? So what the police officer has in their cars, so in their cars they have what's called mobile data terminal, mobile data computers. So the software that they see, or the information that transitions from the call to them, right? This can include mapping data too as well, chat data. We have mobile applications, right? So the other pitch is that we're new technology, cutting edge tools that public safety deserves, as it has been an industry that might have been ignored by newer technology for a period of time. And then ultimately, when that officer starts to take information to an arrest, maybe an offense report, maybe the myriad of information that they need to collect, whether it's regional standards, maybe it's local standards, maybe it's state standards, there's also federal standards. So an easy to use interface that transitions from the proactive nature of a call to or the reactive nature of a call to like proactively taking that data down, moving it through case management, all the associations that need to happen, all the rules that happen from a national standpoint, making sure it's validated. Again, great user experience. Transition to supervisors, make sure things are correct, make sure the data is governed well, and then the analytics and the physical property and evidence, the compliance that goes with that, the chain of custody. So almost similar to healthcare, there's a lot of guardrails and compliance matters, and so again, cloud native software as a service business model, a little bit of a different angle to attacking the industry that it wasn't used to, and so that's Mark43 in a minute 30-second nutshell. But yeah, and as field CTO, so I was one of early employees with the first project, our first customer being Washington D.C. Metro Police Department, and some of the associated agencies within the District of Columbia. But started off doing a lot of support, or what would be eventually tagged as like customer success, but moved over to the field side, or moved over to support sales directly. and handle a lot of the procurement activities in terms of RFPs and a lot of the tip of the spear, go to market, tactical things that need to occur. In addition to owning, demo and product valuation. So ultimately, it's a little bit of a wrapper. Again, it's a startup. We all have to wear a lot of different hats. So it's a combination of about three different work streams. But ultimately, when a customer wants Mark 43, it starts with my team, and then we move them through the different stages of the buying process. While the field is putting together the actual deal. And so, it aligns to about what I've kind of highlighted about three priorities, right? So first off, again, leading the solutions engineers, right, through the buying process, through onboarding, through all of that type of action, training, keeping up to date on the software, keeping up to date on the platform. Um, to tip of the spear execution, so how the product needs to be presented, the kind of very specific value proposition that we bring to each region, because again, each region, each state, has different standards, has different technical or technology expectations. The state might supplement the agencies with certain applications. So the actual solution kind of molds to, again, different body of order depending on where you're at. Like Bruce Lee says, be like water. Um, and then, while you're in the field, right, my theory, and it's really not a theory anymore. It's been well proven over several hundred times here now already. But a lot of the conversations that we have with the customer, at the field level, or at the negotiation level, or just through those buying stages, at the top of the funnel, middle of the funnel. A lot of those conversations are the same conversations that might be happening at the customer success and customer sustainment standpoint. So there's that field to product feedback loop that we're a very large part of, and aligning that to opportunities and sales data as well, so that as you look at the future of the product, future of the platform, you can understand what kind of market and what kind of revenue you may be unlocking, and have a little bit of a science to that. And then ultimately, just serve as a change agent. um, the problems that you have today, good, awesome, right? Hit them, keep it moving forward. But ultimately, have to think about the challenges and scaling the company over the next, 2, 3, 5 years as well. So there's a big component of that as well. As as we get more and more customers, as we get momentum in a certain region, what is the saturation strategy going to mean for us? And again, getting it down to the tactical level, step A, step B, step C, right? How do we move through that in an efficient fashion?
Yeah, and we talked a little bit about this title, field CTO, which you've been sharing a lot of your work responsibilities and how you touch sales. And traditionally, I think CTO is in most companies is peripherally tied to sales, but you're very involved with sales. And so, can you share a little bit about, and then field? We talked about you talked about customer success. Um, so it really is a kind of a wrapper, if it sounds like, between customer success, sales, and the technical aspects. Because, like you said, obviously there's a lot of modifications as you mobilize the solution once you sell the deal. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because it's a little different than I think other companies are used to, and I think it's a very, very valuable, like you said, title and position to have. Can you talk about how you're bridging these different than normal CTO and CSMOs and all these kind of other sales versus tech kind of roles? Because you need to be both, which is rare to find.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And as we talked, about, it's a lot about being that trusted, technical advisor, right? First and foremost. Look, public safety, they're very service oriented. They're service oriented in their mission, right? And so us as an organization need to be, oriented to their mission as well. It's, a lot of times we internally talk about project charters and not necessarily attacking certain functions, but attacking an ultimate outcome, right? And so when it comes to my team and how I coach my team and how I individually contribute as well, because I built the team. I was the first solutions person, 0 to 1, and then we built and scaled around the activities that I did. I supported up to 6 reps at one time at one period, and I traveled maybe 160, 170 flights that year. So one, heavy emphasis on field, right? Heavy emphasis on being out there, right? Your presence is a present. Um, no violence, but sometimes I say, hey, a city, a municipality is not going to pay you, $1 million unless they can, punch you in the face, reach out, touch you, right? Like you have to be there, you have to be in the room, you have to not be a jerk, You have to be empathetic, right? You have to listen to their problems. You have to have great references. There needs to be, customers saying great things about you. So customer success has to be tied into that. And this is where a lot of the cloud native business model really ties in, is that organizationally, we can really focus on that personal aspect. We can focus on the service. We can focus on who we are as people and the trust that we bring, and that, we may not get it right the first time, but know that we're working with you, we're listening with you, and we can iterate because it's one code base. And our 250 to 300 customers, right? Everyone's using it very differently, but in terms of configurability and how we built the platform, it's one code base. So, gone is that overhead of having to have version A, B, C. Some of these companies have, every agency is a version of the software. So, gone is the overhead of that and the business, the inertia that comes with that, right? And so we can, again, focus on being in the field, focus on listening, focus on solving real problems instead of just, trying to match function for function, feature for feature, and feature sell, right? That's why, I have heavy emphasis on calling my team solutions engineers, right? Where no excuses, just solutions, right? We're going to be that, tip of the spear, be that representative of the customer journey, right? That first representative. And then, we're going to guide you through the discovery process and through, understanding of not only just our value proposition from a cybersecurity standpoint, to a value proposition on the configurability level, to a value proposition on good data in, great data out, right? We're going to guide you through those logical phases of understanding how to attack your overall problem. I often say that where a change management, where a change management company disguises a software company, because again, not just the cloud native part, but just how we approach the theory of workflows and how we approach the end to end situations that these officers and telecommunicators have to deal with. So yeah, heavy emphasis on the field side, heavy emphasis on being there for the customer, heavy emphasis on being in person, and and then again, as I said, kind of in the introduction, we're having a little bit of the same conversations over and over that maybe the customer success side might have. So really collaborating between those three spheres of again, customer facing influence. Your sales team, the folks that are out there head down like a linebacker, attacking the pipeline, attacking the problems that they see. My team and myself, coming in and starting to introduce the product, start to introduce, and get champions at each individual roles, because you have to have multiple stakeholder buy-in when you have an enterprise sales process such as this. And then the implementation professional services and the specialists that actually come in and sit side by side with the agencies, and then the sustainment, success, customer experience team, right? Hey, if we configure this way, or if you had this feature, right? So again, just being able to aggregate all that in a fashion that is digestible, and has data, again, regional sales data or pipeline data tied to it, um, and that just makes product, it makes the decision a little bit easier, because all these product decisions, they're hard, they're difficult. You can run as many design workshops as you can, but I'm selling data-driven decision making for the field. So we need to be dogfooding this. We need to have data-driven decision making internally as well. So it just makes things a lot clearer, and keeps us cross-functionally aligned.
Great, great. I'd like to pivot to talk a little bit about some of the product development areas. You said you're a single platform, which obviously now that adds to a lot of challenges for customization. So you have to customize the platform to support maybe some unique customers that come requests that come in, but it has to stay homogenous with the rest of the platform, right? So I would imagine there's some challenges around that in maintaining a singular code base, which obviously helps a lot with deployments and releases. But again, flexibility for the customer, that kind of in the CX process, I would imagine there's some pretty interesting, challenging things that you come across. So, can you share a little bit about some of the insights on how the team handles the challenges around scalability? You have a single platform, lots of agencies. I know when I was doing this, we didn't have all the advantages of cloud and rotating environments and all that. We had to take it down between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. on a Sunday night because that's when the cars weren't moving as much. So then we took it down for a couple hours, did our release, and then brought it back up. You guys obviously don't have those challenges. You can do rotating servers and releases and stuff. So tell me a little bit about your scalability because this is not a system that can go down. It's the 911 core system, it sounds like.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's almost like you've seen one of my presentations here. You're hitting the nail on the head. Um, and even greater than that, software updates, upgrades, right? Some of these agencies have to take those platforms down, for a whole weekend. I was at an agency, they're running a legacy product, and one of my competitors, and they were running, 26 servers whenever we looked at their server farm. And again, whenever they light off or kiosk the servers, they're going to have to have a certain pattern to updating that. And when you start to look at the portfolio that these public safety agencies and what they're starting to be responsible for is grown over the last 20 years. I mean, look, electronic report writing, like just being able to write a computerized report is a phenomenon in our lifetime. Computers haven't always been very usable, right? This is something that has rapidly increased the end user design in the last 20-25 years here. So one, it's a phenomenon in our lifetime. Two, it's been a cutting edge technology startup industry. So, where there's not a lot of cloud out there, there's still a strong education component to this. So there's a lot of greenfield for me. But overall, the portfolio of these agencies, they're getting body worn cameras. They're having to track digital evidence now, right? There's entire, laws and compliance around that. There's even more there's even more surveillance platforms now getting into dash cameras and interview room footage, and now they're doing like CCTV cameras and real-time crime centers. So when you look at the operational burden at some of these public safety agencies, it's becoming too much for them. Like they're almost operating as like a software company of their own. And then you're going to have talent challenges, and you have to have retention challenges of those kind of talented employees. And so a lot of folks didn't get in the IT game to just be, running patches and, upgrading and updating, MySQL and, pulling servers out and things like that. So, and then additionally, like you said, upgrades and updates, ransomware is becoming a huge thing, right? It was, very big in the last decade in the healthcare system, right? Now things are shifting over to public safety. There's a fairly large agency that's pen and paper right now, and their dispatch that we're been talking to. Um, there's special events where they get nervous about cybersecurity. I was talking to another agency. They have an election coming up, a special election. They're shutting down their dispatch system for X amount of time because they're nervous about DDoS attacks. So there's even a greater value proposition to cloud than a lot of folks initially realize. But getting into like how we handle again those features and just kind of talking about the legacy environment and all the patches and all the versions, right? We don't have that challenge. I don't have that challenge. As you've already talked about, we have the flexibility to use servers, go blue green model. If I'm updating or patching, I can easily just flip my elastic load balancer from the old version to the new version after a testing process. So and that also is almost practicing the business continuity and disaster recovery practices too as well. So it's it's a cycle of DevOps and an entirely different concept and operation of business than what any legacy platform or any other company in the industry is going through. So uh, it then allows the value from that is it allows rapid iteration. So as I said, is we may not get something right the first time, but I can push a patch next week. I can push a patch tomorrow. I can dedicate resources to that, dedicate a SWAT team that, and get things out in a quarter. We can flood the customer with our services, right? We have people out there. We have people in the field. We're going through a little bit more of a regionalization of our personnel, so people can get there, quicker, faster, and be more effective. And ultimately, the tax on my development team is the configurability aspect. Like, okay, Louisiana State Police might want to use it in one way versus the way Seattle Police uses it versus the way Louisville Metro Police Department uses it, right? And the lexicon even goes with it, just the way you name things, right? And that can be based on local laws, local things. It can be based on your previous system, right? A lot of SOPs have just been developed to the way system was, right? And so, that just brings it back to me saying that, we're a change management company disguised as a software company from time to time, because now you have the platform that enables you to make the changes that you always wished you wanted to do. And it kind of changes the paradigm of, those internal discussions, as well as the paradigm of external discussions, because now the data is moving well. Now the data is well aligned. It's one data model. We're not updating and patching and changing the database and having, esoteric, models there. And my schema, it's your data. I'm not, holding it hostage. My system is what's very proprietary. So, there's a lot of value out there. I kind of round robin went on a lot of things here, but it's again bringing it back to that cloud native um, piece that really enables and empowers us to bring the service to the forefront.
Excellent, excellent. So a lot of us have, experienced managing remote teams and distributed teams. Wanted to ask you a little bit about your team structure, and is there any challenges that you've encountered managing remote or distributed teams, product teams, and maybe how have you overcome them to one, keep them all talking to each other, connected as a team, and delivering on your fast changing requirements that are presented to you based on the requests from the field.
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I'm physically coming, from Washington D.C. right now, D.C. proper, um, and so, our company is New York based, right? From the beginning, it's always been. We have an office in Toronto, has a lot of engineers in it. We had a strong DC presence, just with Metropolitan DC Police Force being our flagship customer. Um, but you have phases as a company where you start to branch out. So I've always been forward deployed at Mark43, and I'm going on 8 years here in a week, in a couple of weeks here. And then my previous company, Pegasystems, prior to Mark43, business process management platform. I was on the road for 50 to 60, 75%. And and even before that, there was part-time, in office, working from home. So it's it's been something that I've just adjusted to. And again, we kind of scaled the role from how I really started off. So it's been very fortuitous to be kind of forward deployed and not have to adjust from that office culture. So as COVID hit and our company got to another phase as you're moving on from a small company, getting more remote, getting more distributed teams, it's not just a thing for my team. It became a thing for you know customer success. It became a thing for implementation. And so as we've matured, it's not just me. It's not just on the solutions team. It's not just on solutions engineers to be this remote team. We're started to regionalize. We started to align ourselves in pods, which I learned from previous industries as well. Is I was always lockstep with, of course, sales. That's my number one team that I'm supporting. Right, that's the folks in the field. Right, but the moment a deal stage gets to a level where the customer is starting to envision themselves, like, what does this project look like? Change management is always a thing. So want to bring in implementation, want to bring in professional services, consulting as early as possible, or as early as necessary, right? They need to be informed of what's coming, but they need to come in at key times to start being the next or deeper voice there, right? It can't be all on me. It can't be all on solutions, right? Trusted advisor. I'm going to bring you my next best friend here, and they're going to start, really walking, your deeper stakeholders through what an implementation looks like. And that's kind of like the middle to back phase of like the logical argument, is making sure you start to deal with the change management arrows that might be thrown in your way, or detractions from that standpoint. Because again, bringing it back to electronic report writing and cloud native being a new phenomena in this industry, change is always hard. Change is hard for everybody. So that's even another component of our company, is like change management within our PMO and professional services practice. Um, but yeah, it's we have a lot of regional professional services people just strategically placed within certain regions. My team is distributed between East and West, and we align ourselves both to the regional sales reps that are definitely in region, to the regional practice leads, that's the professional services side, which are nearby or within the region, and then my team, which kind of again, I have to kind of strategically have them like kind of crossing over other regions. But um, it's about listening to your people, spending time with them, one-on-ones constantly, plus ones constantly. Um, you know, Tracking dashboards in terms of what you're doing, and then making sure that they have the tools to operate mobily or while they're in the field. A whole toolage aspect to this, like I said, field to product feedback loop. Like, no, you're not out there writing the feedback on paper, right? There's digital tools. We push the data in, it automatically aligns. Like request systems, we're not quite one-to-one with the field. So just making sure that from a work stacking standpoint, we just have the internal toolage to track that. And then also that, allows us to project is, make sure you're solving for today's problem, make sure you're getting, your wildly important goals done, but look at the data to drive your staffing, look at the data to drive the new tools that you need to get, look at the data to make sure you're not overburdening your people.
Excellent, excellent. So I think, as we're coming to the latter part of the show, this is where I like to kind of pivot away from the company talk and the tech talk and talk a little bit about you and some of your personal journey. A lot of our people that watch the show, are in that middle management and, aspire to be a C-suite technical or sales leader. Can you, and I noticed you, had some early, you had 4 years in the Navy, it looks like, and then you transitioned in the private sector, worked through tech, then worked into sales, and ultimately landed into a C-suite role. Can you talk about that journey and where you think some of the key points were to transition you and people to look at you as somebody that was could move into that C-suite chair and lead teams at that level?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Right. So, you kind of hit on it. I was in the military, I was in the Navy for a while. So I was a 2005 graduate from the great United States Naval Academy, go Navy. Um, and then got a degree in computer science. I'd always been very technical leaning. Had an older brother in software development. Was like a teenager dabbling in software development. So definitely wanted to major in computer science. And then as I transitioned, with my commission to the Navy, didn't do anything with development or computer science whatsoever. I was a surface warfare officer. I was on a ship for a while. Did business office. Really learned a lot about kind of creating business rules, and had to deal a lot with certain new special missions that we had to fill. So as I transitioned from service in 2009, at the time, there was a little bit of a downturn in the economy. I felt that, while I was in service and I was going through transition, I felt that I had done a lot of the due diligence and footwork. I'm like one of the earliest people to be on LinkedIn. I had all these contacts, went to a few places, and then industry kind of went on a downturn, and a lot of the guys that I knew at Yahoo and a lot of guys that I knew at a few other places like weren't there anymore. So as I was transitioning out, I said, hey, I'm going to rely on my strengths. My strengths are a security clearance at the time. My strengths are my military experience. I was looking at Deloitte, Bearing Point. Deloitte had acquired Bearing Point and acquired like a big federal entity. So I joined what now is called GPS at Deloitte, or Government Professional Services, and I wanted to get back to kind of computer technology IT, and so bounced around a few projects. Had a great opportunity to join like a huge project with Department of Homeland Security. That was both like very technology security focused, but also had a huge software component. So really bounced around to every role I could be on the software side, from testing to project management to development to PMO, right? So there was just a lot of experience that I did in different spheres of being at a software company, and helped build my confidence. I was like, I can do this. But I also wanted to go to grad school and get another kind of level to education, get a little bit, diversify my leadership, diversify my education a little bit. So I transitioned from Deloitte into pre-sales to start getting a little bit more money, a little bit more benefits there, and pay for school out of pocket myself, as well as expand on a little bit more of the sales and the softer sales skills. At the same time, had bounced around to a small startup, kind of an energy management startup, got a better opportunity, more compensation. Had some colleagues. We were, starting some mobile app development. There was a product there that we were working with, which was again wearing many hats between development, between marketing, between getting out there and doing like guerrilla footwork and getting feedback from the field. But the trademark was purchased. But as I transitioned from Pegasystems to Mark43, at Pegasystems, I was doing a lot of federal sales there. Like the federal side, the government side of Pegasystems was a little bit of a new side. They generally did their business process management to Fortune 50.
Mhm.
So we were talking to New York City, and they were asking us about social media analytics. And as I was doing more research, a company called Data Miner kept popping up, which I was somewhat familiar with from a lot of the news in DC. And then a lot of folks from Data Miner transitioned over to Mark43. And so it was like right after they had implemented their first customer. So, went through my connects, learned a little bit more about Mark43. I understood it from a federal level because one of the software platforms was a little bit of a information system, case management system, records management system. It was very broad, but it was a system that we were owning in one of our DHS projects at Deloitte. So I had a level of understanding there, and yeah, made the leap of faith. There were a lot of great people, very forward thinking, a lot of smart people, and then as I was at Mark43, just wore many hats, took on a lot of challenges, moved from that kind of, customer support role, success role, being forward deployed there to the sales side, to the growth side as we started up growth. Took ownership of a lot of, procurement activities in terms of proposal, the technical side of proposal work, built relationships with the New York side of the house and the product side of the house, and then just scaled from there. As the company got hotter, as the product got hotter, got more customers, started to get traction in certain regions. Just went out to those regions, was just trying to be present, but all the same time, again thinking about the problem that we currently have, but also thinking about what do I need to do 3 years from now? What do I need to do 5 years from now? So I just always stayed ready with the resources or the assets or the unique things that I was doing to win certain deals with field agents. Right? I always built on those assets, expanded on those assets, kind of pushed or owned them internally. So if it was, hey, a lot of cities go through a procurement process. They go through RFPs. They can't always direct buy. All right, do we have a tech grid? Okay, well, I answered this tech grid. Let's use this as a template, and let's commoditize this and move it forward. Or the field of product feedback loop, starting to document that. Maybe it's not aligned to opportunities at the time, but we'll do that. Different, go-to-market documentation. Just always, thought a little bit ahead of the current problem, or just always thought about, what I was doing at that moment. How could I commoditize that and make that something that I need to continue to use? And so just stayed ready. And every time there was an opportunity to move up or an opportunity to show, what I was thinking 3 from now or 5 from now, I just always had it there, and I've been able to answer the question. And so yeah, but ultimately I'm tied to growth, and so the size of the company, the movement of the company is going to affect the size of my team. And so as that year-to-year pipeline builds up, then I get to build and scale from there. And so that's organic. I appreciate that, because if I got too big too quick, then puts a little bit of a target on you. But yeah, that's how it happened.
Well, thanks for that. Sounds like you are willing to take and push your the boundaries of maybe even your comfort zone a little bit, and take on different things that as you move into leadership roles, it becomes more and more broad and less vertical. And it sounds like between the jump into tech to sales, which is not a very common jump. So appreciate that summary. All right. Well, we're kind of getting to the end of our time. Wanted to introduce next week's show. And then, of course, we'll wrap up with you if that's okay, Kevin. So next week, we have John Bentley, CPO and co-founder of 10XT, a fintech company that specializes in providing universal governance, risk, and compliance solutions for controllable electronic records. So that's next week, the 21st, 9:30 Pacific time. And go ahead and sign up for the event. You'll get notifications there on LinkedIn or whatever social platform you like to use. So thanks again, Kevin. Really appreciate your insights and your background on Mark43. How technology fits in to public sector. A lot of folks don't realize how much tech is involved with being a police officer and public service person, and then the products that help them do their job better and more efficiently. So thanks again, and have a great rest of your week, everyone.
Thanks for the opportunity.